Until now, we have discussed about how different parameters like W and B are affecting the loss function. To minimize the value of the loss function or summation of loss functions, to minimize the value of the cost function, we are using the gradient descent algorithm. And by using the gradient descent algorithm, after minimizing the cost function, at what values of W and B this cost function is minimized, we have extracted those W and B values, and we have fixed those W and B values in our neural network. We have seen the how deep neural network is working. Now we are discussing hyperparameters. What are these hyperparameters? We already know the parameters WB. What are these hyperparameters? These hyperparameters are also parameters we have to design, we have to take care. But designing of these hyperparameters, for designing of these hyperparameters, we will not go through any procedure like we have discussed, like we are going through the gradient descent like that. It is like learning rate alpha and number of iterations. How many times you want to iterate the gradient descent? How many number of hidden layers? Uh, how many number of hidden layers you are expecting in the deep neural network? And in each hidden layer, how many units should be there? And the choice of activation function, whether you want to use the sigmoid function or a tan H function or a rectified linear unit function or leaky rectified linear unit function, all these are called as hyperparameters. There are some more hyperparameters like mini batch size, regularization, momentum. These parameters, these hyperparameters are indirectly affecting the W and B. So if we choose the proper values of these hyperparameters, that will give the proper values of W and B. But how to know what is the proper value for alpha, what is the proper value for number of iterations, what is the proper number of hidden layers, what is the proper number of hidden units? If we have to say the right words, then we should go with the iterations. We should go with the number of trials. Then only we will come to know what is the real alpha. The only parameter we every time we have to take care is cost function. If you are increasing the alpha, the cost function is decreasing, and then you have to choose the alpha in such a way that the proper alpha at such a point which gives the minimum value of the cost function. And similarly, we will do trials with the number of iterations and hidden layers and hidden units. Even though a deep neural network is fixed for a project for 6 months, after 6 months, according to the changes in the data, you might need to change some hyperparameters like alpha. So we should be ready to change all those hyperparameters according to our requirement to get the minimum value of the cost function. So here what we are doing the number of iterations for different values of alpha, and we are checking whether the cost function is decreasing or increasing. If example for increasing the alpha, if the cost function value is increasing, then we have to change the value of the alpha. We have to take care the alpha such that because of incrementing it is cost function is incrementing, we have to decrement the alpha. If we are decrementing alpha and the cost function is increasing, then we have to take care to increment the alpha. Similarly, we have to do number of trials about the hyperparameters, and the different trials. In the different trials, whenever we are getting the better results, we can apply that to our hyperparameters. Where we are using this deep learning and applied machine learning in nowadays, these deep neural networks, where we are using in the natural language processing. Whenever you want to change some text from one language to another language, like you see in the Google Translator, it is one of the application of deep learning. You can think in the computer vision, in the speech recognition, and in structural data like advertisements and searching and computer security and in logistic applications. These are some applications where we are using the deep learning techniques in nowadays.